Boges might be one of the strongest calisthenics athletes on YouTube. And the strange part is, his training looks almost too simple. No crazy weighted pull-ups, no ego lifting, no one-rep max attempts. Just simple movements, repeated with almost boring consistency. And yet his strength is ridiculous. Controlled pull-ups, clean dips, push-ups that look effortless. So the real question is, what does he know that most lifters don't? Because once you understand how he trains, it completely changes how you think about building strength. The answer starts with something most people completely underestimate: the rep quality principle. Now, if you watch his pull-ups closely, something becomes obvious very quickly. Every rep is controlled with a full range of motion. At first glance, it might not look impressive because we're so used to seeing explosive fast reps in the gym. But here's the thing: controlled reps like that are significantly harder than they look. Momentum disappears, the muscles stay under tension longer, and suddenly the exercise becomes brutally honest. You can't hide behind speed anymore. K Boges doesn't chase impressive numbers. He chases impressive reps, which sounds like a small difference, but it completely changes the type of strength you build. And wait, that actually matters more than most people realize. Because when people try to increase their pull-ups or dips, the first instinct is usually to move faster. The faster you go, the easier it becomes to sneak in extra reps. But faster reps often mean less tension where it actually counts. K Boges does the opposite. He slows things down just enough to keep the muscles doing the work the entire time. Over time, that creates a kind of strength that looks very different from typical gym strength. It's not just about producing force for one moment. It's about controlling your body through the entire movement. And that's why his reps look so smooth, because the strength behind them is built through control, not shortcuts. But technique alone doesn't explain everything. The second thing that separates his training from most lifters is actually the frequency advantage. Instead of treating exercises like pull-ups as something you destroy once per week, he treats them more like a skill that you practice. That's a very different mindset. When you train movements more frequently, without constantly pushing to failure, your body gets better at recruiting muscle fibers, coordinating the movement, and producing force efficiently. So while many people are still recovering from their brutal back day, he's already practicing the movement again. That repeated exposure matters more than people think. Strength isn't just built by exhausting muscles. It's also built by teaching your nervous system to perform the movement more efficiently. The more often you practice a movement with good reps, the more natural and powerful it becomes. Now, this doesn't mean the training is easy. In fact, it's often the opposite. Because when you remove ego lifting, remove sloppy reps, and remove the idea of destroying yourself every session, what you're left with is consistent, high-quality work. And that's where the real strength adaptations happen. Instead of huge spikes of intensity followed by long recovery periods, the body gets a steady stream of stimulus, week after week, month after month. It's less dramatic, but far more sustainable. Which is why athletes who train like this often look ridiculously strong, even though nothing about their workouts looks extreme. But there's one more piece that people often misunderstand when they look at this style of training, which is progressive tension. When people look at this style of training, they sometimes assume progression doesn't exist. After all, there's no barbell where you can just add another 5 kilograms each week. But the interesting thing is that athletes like K Boges don't actually obsess over forcing progression in the first place. In fact, he often argues that chasing numbers too aggressively is exactly what causes most training problems. When people rush to increase reps or jump to harder exercises, technique usually starts to break down. The range of motion gets shorter, momentum creeps in, and suddenly the exercise isn't doing what it's supposed to do anymore. Instead, the focus shifts to something much simpler: mastering the movement itself. Every session becomes more like practice than a test. The goal isn't to squeeze out bigger numbers at all costs, but to perform the cleanest reps possible and consistent technique. And here's the interesting part. When you train like that, progress still happens, not because you're forcing it, but because the body naturally adapts to high-quality work repeated over time. Think about it like this. Imagine doing 10 pull-ups as fast as possible. Now compare that to 10 pull-ups where every rep starts from a full hang. Same number of reps on paper, but the second version demands far more strength and control. Strength starts to build almost automatically, because the body is consistently exposed to high-quality work instead of rushed progression. But progression alone still doesn't explain why his strength stands out so much. The real difference actually comes from something even simpler. The real secret takeaway: high-quality reps, consistent practice, and gradual progression over time. Nothing complicated, but incredibly effective. And that's also why his training looks almost calm compared to what you see in many gyms. There's no need for constant intensity spikes when the foundation is built on consistency. This approach doesn't just build strength. It also tends to build a very athletic physique, because when movements are performed with full range of motion and long tension, the muscles responsible for those movements develop naturally. The back becomes dense, the arms strong, the shoulders stable, not because of endless isolation exercises, but because the body is repeatedly doing exactly what it was designed to do. So the next time you watch someone like K Boges perform pull-ups that look almost effortless, it's worth remembering what's actually behind that effortlessness. Years of controlled reps and consistent practice that most people would overlook because it doesn't look dramatic enough. But ironically, that's exactly what makes it so powerful. And if you want to see how this style of training can actually build muscle faster than most people expect, watch the video on screen. I break down how endurance-style calisthenics works and why it can keep you lean while still building serious strength.